Hello, Tiger fans, and welcome to this week's edition of the Tiger Women's Basketball Report. I'm your host, Ben Rosenbaum, and as always, I'm joined by the head coach of the Tigers, Laura Harper. And Coach, go down to Virginia, a split week for you guys. First beating William and Mary 66-59, and then a loss to Hampton on the road 72-61. Let's start with the William and Mary game. All these games now, they're getting tough as we get closer and closer to tournament time. Everyone's playing each other tight. But Pat Anumba, 17 career high points for her. Quinn Fulmore, 15 career high points for her. So you just had to be excited, first of all, for those two before we even get to the win and the rest of the game.
Of course, just excited for the overall team win versus William and Mary, and for Pat to get her footing, and Quinn she's putting together a complete season, and that's most exciting, and seeing that she can score deep in the post and she's making her free throws. So we're just truly excited for their progress.
And then the game itself, another back and forth affair. It gets down to it late. You only give up 1 point in the last 2 minutes. And that was so crucial when you look how everything played out. It's again, defense travels, defense wins championships, and your defense once again showed up when they needed it the most.
Yeah, basketball's the game of runs, and we were able to sustain theirs and, come back and punch with some of our own. But ultimately, like you said, defense does win championships as well as rebounding, and I think we were able to, win that side of the battle.
Double-double again for Kylie. At this point, we can talk about her skill and her IQ. The consistency and the stamina that she's had to keep this up game after game, week after week, month after month at this point, that's super impressive. And because she knows defenses are going to throw everything they can at her, and she still finds a way. So the consistency, both mentally and physically, from her, that's got to be super impressive.
For sure. Kylie, she definitely stands in a league of her own in that regard, just from a physicality, athleticism, like you said, just her overall IQ. It's impressive. It's fun to coach. You know what to expect for the most part. And I think she's proven to have emotional growth throughout the year, too, which is most exciting for me as a coach. So, Kylie's ready to put on a show every time the lights come on, and we're just all here to watch.
Defensively, you also only gave up 5 points in the second quarter, and then you look at their scoring output. Wagner and Casey have a typical night for them, but nobody else on their roster scores more than 6 points, and they didn't have many other scores. Was that something by design that you kind of knew Wagner and Casey were going to have Wagner and Casey type of nights, but you couldn't let anyone else explode?
Just with volume shooting, it's hard to hold someone like Riley Casey to 10 or less points. That's just not who she is. And Wagner the same. She's been out a little bit. We could have expected some production there. So we always say don't let the role players kill us, but ultimately try to hold the stars under their their averages. And I think credit our team for really buying into the defensive plan.
And then you keep moving throughout Virginia, go to Hampton, another tough loss in another tightly contested game. Just your thoughts on that game and how everything played out down the stretch.
For sure. Another challenging game. I think that also was a game of runs, and I think emotionally we were a little bit drained towards the end. We didn't have that final push to close the game. I felt like defensively, we let number one coming back really get hot on some drives, and we just weren't really able to contain her in a way that I would have personally liked to. But ultimately, it's tough playing 2 games on the road. And I think that our team is in a good place coming off of that loss, even knowing, okay, where do we need to improve and what can we do moving forward to A&T to just be better.
In that game, one bright spot, Quinn Fulmore, a career-high 12 rebounds for her, which I was surprised, and I was talking with SID Matt Luchetsky, and I was surprised her career high is only 12 because it seems like she gets her hand on every single ball, but she's grown as a rebounder. She had some struggles in the Hampton game, certainly with scoring. Talk about her getting that career high, and then they were collapsing on her, and that's absolutely a sign of respect to Quinn that they do not want her to dominate inside.
For sure. It's funny you say that, because as she was doing individual film with Coach Kelly, she's like, I felt so crowded in my space, I couldn't move. And I said, that's respect. That's what happens when you're good. People have to send double, triple teams at you. And I think, when you realize that this is really Quinn's coming out year, that she's learning as the year progresses, credit to her of just being such an open book and a sponge to learning.
Sticking in the post inside, I know as a former post player yourself and for Coach Kelly as well, as good of a game Quinn had. Hampton had a great game down low, 42 points in the post for them. What were they able to do, which a lot of teams have not been able to do against Towson, is really own the paint and dominate inside.
100%. They isolated us one-on-one again and again and again and again and again. And ultimately, we just weren't really able to keep them in front, or just they asserted their will on us. So, looking back on the game, probably should have went zone a little bit more than we did. I think I got a little nervous when we went. They scored right off of it, but ultimately, credit to them. They went downhill on us and scored in the paint, which we try to do on other teams. So.
As we get closer and closer to the end of the season and closer to the tournament play, you're sitting in fourth place right now, which is a good spot to be in. What was the message to the team? Maybe not immediately following the game, but a day or two after, and when you're getting down in the crunch time.
Of course, I try to intentionally not really speak after losses, just because I am so competitive, and I don't ever want to say something I can't take back, especially after most of the time the team has poured their heart out to try it. I don't think we ever try to lose. Right? And I always tell them 24 hours. So we take that 24 hours, and once the 24 hours is over, let's talk about it. So our message yesterday really was, how can we be better? Defensively, we have to get better there, but hey, we can compete with any team in this conference. There's no team that I look at and say we can't beat them. We can't compete with them. We're not going to game plan. We have an amazing staff. So I think we should be reassured there, and I'm going to tell them, hey, we have one more road game, and the rest of the games are played here in CQ. So even from a practice standpoint, we're going to start practicing a lot more in that gym just to get really, really comfortable and really confident.
All right, and you will have a game in this gym this weekend. You have two games this weekend, one at home, one on the road, starting with North Carolina A&T, newcomer to the conference, tied for second right now with Stony Brook in the conference, and they're really good. One of the best scoring teams in the conference, one of the best rebounding teams in the conference. Before we get to them, and this is something Spiro and Coach Scary have talked about on the men's show, is this is the first time you're playing North Carolina A&T, and you have 3 or 4 games left in the season. What are your thoughts on that this is a big game as we get closer to the tournament? Seeding's always a big thing, and you're not playing one of these teams until the very end of the season, where you've played some teams twice already.
Respectfully, I think that we are going to need to evaluate our matrices and our policies and how we decide what game scheduling looks like, and I've expressed that personally. But ultimately, these are the hands that we're drawing, and they have changed as a team as well as we have. So we know what to expect, and credit to Terrell coming into this conference and doing exactly what he's done, and credit to his team for just being so dominant with their defense. But we just have to come ready to play, and we know, I think they're like up 15 on the boards. We're going to have to rebound as well.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, it starts and stops or it doesn't even stop. It starts with Jasmine Harris for them. Top scorer in the CAA, one of their best rebounders, 38 blocks. I mean, she does it all for them. When you look at Jasmine Harris's tape, what do you see?
Domination. I mean, she is just very efficient. She uses her body extremely well. She's strong, but agile as well. So just for as big as she is, she moves extremely well. We have a lot of respect for her, and we're going to be prepared. And
then real quickly, next game after NCAT on Sunday, hitting the road, going down to the College of Charleston. You've played them once, 53-48. It was a loss here at home, and that was a weird game. You held them scoreless in a quarter and gave up the win. Is there a little bit of a bitter taste? Has anyone been eyeing this game a little bit, saying that we had this game and we let one slip away? With no offense to Charleston.
Of course, no. Again, I respect Robin and her team as well. I don't know how our team feels, but I can say that we will be ready to play Charleston on Sunday. So.
All right. Tigers have 2 this week. First at home on Friday, taking on North Carolina A&T here in CQ, and then on the road at Charleston. Those games available for you on Flow Sports. For the head coach of the Tigers, Laura Harper, I'm Ben Rosenbaum. Thanks for joining us, and as always, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.